My mother is 89 years old.
My dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease probably about 4 years ago.
My mom is 92 and still going strong. Though recently, she drove through a red light, hit 2 cars, and totaled her Prius. She went out and bought a new car the next day. She wants to be independent. And that's the dilemma. How do we honor our parents' wishes and help them when they may have a completely different idea of what's best, or when there are no good options? We knew our parents at their best times. My mom has been an award-winning artist since college.
My dad was, when we were younger, very hardworking.
Chris Kubota is my cousin. Her father is my mother's youngest brother.
We lived right next door to the store where he worked, my grandparents' hardware store, and they worked, from 9 o'clock in the morning till late in the evenings. He's on his one day off on Sunday. We did a lot of things. We would go cutting wood. We would go swimming up at the lake. Sometimes we'd go bike riding.
Carol Yoon's mother and my mother became friends.
She was an awesome grandma.
Seeing their parents' descent into dementia has been devastating for Carol and Chris.
She would wait till I came over and then say to me, I couldn't remember how to use the phone to call you.
Sometimes he gets a little ornery and mean, very stubborn in what he will or will not do, and it really is moment by moment. He can be very happy and cooperative in one moment and want to go for a walk, and then 5 minutes later, by the time you get shoes on and coats on, he'll decide he doesn't want to go and gets very angry if you try to make him go.
And the thing is that my mom used to say, when I get old, just put me in an old folks home. I don't want to be a burden to you. And then your mother is totally distraught, saying, please, please, don't put me in, some place. So I promised. I ended up having to break the promise, but it was only after hospitalizations and doctors saying you have to put her somewhere, and even after that, only after finding her on the floor several times, totally disoriented, saying, where have you been? I've been calling for you for 5 hours.
My younger brother and younger sister and I take turns going over on a weekend to kind of help out mom and dad, do housework, take them to doctor's appointments. I do have 4 children. I feel like a lot of my time is being taken away from my kids. I guess we're called the sandwich generation. And I'm starting to feel that.
I feel like, we were raised by these people who spent their lives sacrificing for you and talking to you about it and making it really clear that what the goal is supposed to be in life is that everybody does for the family.
Well, shortly before he was first diagnosed, and he was depressed and had talked a little bit about, wishing he wasn't here anymore, that type of thing. And so I had a conversation with him about how that would be a horrible thing for us, his family, his children, if he ever did anything, or if, whenever he does pass away. And that as his children, we feel it's our duty and our honor to be able to help him through this phase of his life.
I would say that what helps me the most in dealing as happily as possible with caring for my mother is actually my kids.
It is an incredible gift from my mom that my grown kids, her grandkids, live nearby, and at least one of them usually sees her every week.
They can love her and see all of the stuff that just makes me crazy. They'll be like, yeah, that's our grandpa.
Don't forget the person that your parents are or were. For my dad, my sister and I both agree that he's not really our dad anymore. He's not, acting like the man that we always knew. But because of who he always was, we'll always be there for him.
Her diagnosis is really kind of just old age, and that very upsy downsy, like one day lucid, the next day completely not lucid.
So the prednisolone 1 drop.
I am completely confident that my mother does not understand what this medical assistant is telling her, but doesn't want to impose and ask her to explain it again.
Use 5 minutes after any other eye drop.
Carol, Chris, and I often commiserate about how frustrating it can be to try to help our stubborn parents. Chris estimates she spent about $8,000 this year flying over to care for her parents.